From the studio in Southern California, with your host, Victor Rancour,
I only knew one way, and I knew the right way.
it's the Hero Podcast. Today, Victor welcomes Heather Bargender Wavra, CFO of Sky Heating and Air.
Through my construction journey, I realized that a lot of trade businesses had great installers and great owners, but the owners didn't really have the business background to know how to take their businesses to the next level.
Without further delay, here's your host, Victor Rancour.
How you guys doing? This is Victor Rancour. I'm the host of your Service Hero podcast. I'm glad to be back. The new baby's doing well, and I'm excited to have our next guest for episode number 4, Heather Bargender. Is that how I say it? Bargender. Bargender. My bad, Heather. Heather is the CFO of Sky Heating and Air up in Oregon. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing, Victor?
I'm doing great. It feels good to be back. It's, it was weird. I started the podcast right before the baby came. My wife was yelling at me, and then, and obviously the baby came, and I'm like, oh shoot, 2 weeks without it. People are texting me and stuff. So glad to be back. I'm glad to be back to work. Most of you guys know, but that's all I really like to do is work. So I'm excited to be back, but I'm excited to have you on the show.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So Heather, tell the listeners a little bit about your past, or what you've done, or what you're doing before you're with Sky Heating and Air, and how you got into the home service field.
Well, I started my career back in 1998. I was working for a general contractor that specialized in doing schools and churches. So that's kind of where my love for the construction industry started. I really, really, really enjoyed the people that worked for the GC that I was working for. And I stayed there for a couple of years, but back in the late 90s, women still weren't really welcomed with open arms into the construction industry. And so I really wanted to be a project manager, but it wasn't at that point an option, just based on the way that the trades were back then. So I decided to finish my college in the accounting direction, and took my first job as the controller of a design build structural steel company out of West Linn, Oregon. I worked there for 7 years, and then decided to get into residential building at the worst possible time, 2007, 2008. I took that plunge and went into residential construction, and that journey lasted 9 months until the market completely crashed and nobody was building new homes.
Oh my God.
So from there, I went to work for a long-term union drywall, lath, and plaster company in Beaverton, Oregon. And I worked there for 3 years, but then realized that my kids needed a little bit more of my time, and I needed a little bit more flexibility. So that's when I started Bottom Line Accounting Services, which is what really got me into more home service and trade-based businesses. Through my construction journey, I realized that a lot of trade businesses had great installers and great owners, but the owners didn't really have the business background to know how to take their businesses to the next level, or to even run them efficiently in their current state. And so Bottom Line Accounting Services offered those kind of services for streamlining processes and procedures for a trade-based business or a home service-based business, while also getting their financials set up properly so that they could accurately report their performance. And then we worked on KPIs, processes, and procedures for that going forward. That part of my journey I really, really loved, but my husband said that I worked too much and told me to go find just one job working for one person and stop taking on every, trade partner that would ask me to come help them. And so it's kind of funny how it's come full circle. I went to work for Travis Smith. I found, this job at this, back then we were a much smaller company at this Portland area, HVAC. So I went to work for Travis, and I didn't really plan on staying with him. I planned on appeasing my husband until I could go back to the company that I owned. And so I kept my company open for another year or two. But then after working for Travis, I have no desire to ever leave. He and I have grown to become really good friends and business partners in other ventures. And so I've been with Sky ever since, and we're going strong and growing like a lot of the rest of you guys.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. You go back to when you were first getting into the trades, and the women are having a hard time getting positions of power, I guess, and how much has changed since then. And that's kind of what this podcast is about. And there's a lot of powerful women in this industry that are behind these guys. You know, Travis is on his podcast and doing things all the time. But if you ask Travis, who really runs the show, they're going to tell you it's Heather. And a lot of people don't bring that to light, and it's a big deal to be able to be in that position in this industry with the, you know, the machismo everybody has. You know, the guys run the world and we know everything. And to be honest, I don't know shit. You know, I didn't know nothing. And Heather's been, you know, Heather stepped in to help my business too. I have another girl that works for me who's my CFO now, and Heather's been training her. And it's a night and day to see, you know, we have this like, go mindset, but they're the detailed people behind us that like, hey, no, you need to slow down. Let's get this stuff together. Um, so for you, obviously going into Sky Heating and Air, what was your position in the beginning? Did you immediately go into the CFO position, or was it kind of just worked your way up to that?
Travis had some issues in the past with previous people that were in the accounting position. It was a much smaller company, a couple $1 million a year. So they just had a bookkeeper up until that point. And I knew when I applied for the position, I was completely overqualified for a bookkeeping job, which is kind of still to this day a running joke around Sky Heating. But I came in and realized that Travis's financials were a hot mess, and they weren't doing anything unethical, but the way that the books were being ran was completely inaccurate and wrong. And so I started just basically I rebuilt their books. I reconciled all the accounts to as close as I could get. And then we started over with a clean set of books. And then from there, I started writing processes and procedures for, a month-end close, and how things were going to, the workflow for the office, and how things were going to go for the service department. And then the workflow between install and, completion. And at that time we were still doing new construction too. So I got some processes and procedures written for the new construction department. We don't do new construction now, but the last 5 years we've been able to really ramp up and double the size of the company.
What are you guys at down? What are you guys looking at projection for this year? I know coronavirus hitting a little threw you guys off, especially you guys are in one of the hardest hit areas.
We budgeted for this year, and I think we really would have hit it, 12.5 million.
That's fantastic.
Last year we did a little over 8.5 million. We've been growing like crazy. We went private label the end of 2019 and hit it hard, never looked back. We were very successful in trailblazing the Portland and the Northwest market with private label. We've been able to bring on some other, dealers that are also doing private label at this point. We came into 2020 and hit it hard. We were on track to really, really hit our goals. And with the coronavirus, that was just a screeching halt, as everyone knows. It's just like the whole market retracted and everything stopped. So now I think we have a good chance of hitting 9 to 10 million.
Which is still phenomenal. It's still a pretty big growth year over year. I mean, obviously all of us, you have the same mindset. You're trying to get where you have goal oriented. So it's always hard to fall short of your goal. But, even, I always tell people, if you shoot your goal way up here and you come a little bit short, you still did a fantastic job. Like if you set your goal really low and you blow past it, that doesn't feel as good. But if it's something like, hey, I want 12 million this year, and you guys, come out with 11.5, like there's no reason to be mad about that though.
Yeah. Even, winning the day isn't always, beating your goals. If you can make a significant impact. And I think the biggest thing that we've seen since we went private label is a gross increase in our gross profit margin. It's just shot through the roof, which has been incredible for the team.
Oh, 100%. And I was actually having a conversation with Travis about this, because people keep asking things in my Facebook group and stuff like that. And, Travis had mentioned, you guys are doing private label and I'm doing private label, but I was doing Lennox and Goodman private labeling for a couple months there, because in California we have the ultra low NOx thing, and it was a big issue. Goodman didn't make the units yet, and they'd have the variable speed. So I was going with Lennox and Goodman. And last month I went 100% Goodman, and I was able to, the private labeling, I was able to cut my, I think it was like a 30% decrease in equipment cost. Right. And that's not including all the rebates and all the great things that you get, the incentives on top of it. And it makes a big difference. And I've seen zero kickback from any of our customers or anything, right? It's everyone thinks like, I got to sell Lennox, I got to sell Train or whatever it is. how was that taken in your business when you guys first switched over? Were there a lot of people kind of pushing back on you? Because there was a lot of people pushing back on me at first, and now they're like, okay, we understand.
No, actually, what you were just saying is exactly what we experienced. People really don't care about the brand. They care if you build value. There's always obviously a need there, but if you build the value, the price doesn't matter. We're HVAC people, so we know, Trane, Carrier, Lennox, York, whatever. Most people don't. They don't care. They want an air conditioner, a heat pump, furnace that works. And, when you build the value of our brand, it carries a lot of weight. And we spent the last couple of years really, really focusing on our branding, which has been incredible for our market recognition.
It makes a huge difference. And, even for me, like people don't, they obviously you got to build up your reviews, you got to get clients, right? And you got to do your marketing right. But, you guys use logo, you guys, you got that logo and you guys ran with it. And now it's probably everywhere. I know you guys do a bunch of different marketing. You got your radio jingle, which I've heard a couple times imprinted in my brain when I heard it. So that's been fun.
That's the point.
No, what I just changed, I just got a new jingle for my business, and someone called in the radio. Oh, we missed the old one. I'm like, yeah, because now this one's fried in your brain. The other one was cute. Now this one, you're going to be singing it all day, and your little daughter is going to sing it all day, and then you're going to end up buying from us. But that the power of branding is a major thing. I don't know so go back 5 years ago, was your marketing budget what it is now, or how has that changed? Like to where you guys are you guys marketing more than ever because you guys kind of see what it does?
We definitely 5 years ago were not doing the marketing that we are now. We've always tried to keep our marketing budget between 5 and 7% of revenue, and we've diversified quite a bit. So 5 years ago, we were just starting to get into the major TV spots on the weather with the major news stations, Fox 12 and whatnot. We're still doing that, but besides the news, we were doing mailers, home shows. Nobody sees return from home shows.
Yeah.
Angie's List really isn't a big producer. The last couple of years, we've really been successful with rebranding the logo, the updated logo, getting rid of the retro logo, even though that's always going to hold a special place in our hearts. That's where the company started. But we wrapped all of our vans. That was kind of a large expense for 2019. We spent.
Oh, trust me.
Vans. The new things we did last year, we started last year and have continued this year, is the radio ads and the billboards.
You know what? I haven't done billboards yet, but my building is on the freeway. So it's funny because I track people go by our business and they see it, right? And we're getting ready to move out of this office. This was our main office. We're moving to our new building, and we're going to keep this one. My accountant's like, "Why are we keeping this building?" And I was like, "Look at the numbers. Running service time, we do $50,000 to $100,000 a month of people driving by and seeing us. So why would we move out of this business, out of the building?" But I haven't got into billboards yet, and I see a lot of my competitors do it. I know Ishmael does this, other people like that, billboards all over town. And do you get a lot of people that call in about it, or what's your feeling on that?
I definitely think it's worth it. We get a lot of people that call in who have seen it, but have also heard us on the radio, who have also seen us on the Weather Channel, who have, various different avenues of marketing that we have done. We're obviously doing Google guaranteed, pay-per-click, those kind of things that we've really seen a lot of return on it. As we've expanded several locations for Sky Heating, we've been able to build up those Google reviews in each of our areas.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm working on right now. Obviously, I was telling you before we jumped on that we're expanding, and I'm like, okay, I got to get Google set up over there. I got to start getting our reviews over there because, for me, I do hundreds of $1,000s a month off of Yelp, right? Because I built up this fantastic Yelp following in Southern California. Yelp is, if you have a shitty Yelp, you don't got a business. So for me, I built up this big Yelp here, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to these other markets. Now I'm back down to zero. So I got to kind of build that stuff up. But I have noticed like radio, it's like they might not have called you immediately off radio, right? They usually like the direct response isn't immediate, but when the thing breaks down, if you have that jingle or you've built that reputation over time, people know who to call. And a lot of my CSRs, I'm like, find out where they actually found us from, because they might have went to Google, they fill out a form on Google, but they heard us on the radio, right? And trying to track that marketing dollars and where everything goes is really important. Are you guys pretty strict on that, like as far as your CSRs?
Yes, we are. Our CSRs have a very regimented call script. Like I had said before, I'm really big on processes and procedures. I'm really big on consistency. I want to make sure that we're delivering the same thing to our customer every single time. We have spent a whole ton of time fine tuning our Service Titan so that we are getting the output that we're expecting to get from the software. And Service Titan's just been an incredible game changer for our business, just because it's so robust and it gives us so many of the KPIs that we were calculating manually. It's just such a time saver.
100%. And, I switched over. Obviously, you were helping us when we switched over to Service Titan and dealing with Vivian and stuff, and that was fantastic. Thank you for doing that. But yeah, switching over to Service Titan, like last year, I switched over and I didn't take the time to learn it and nurture it, and I was like, "Oh, this thing's a piece of shit." I didn't like it. And I was like, "I can't figure it out." And then once I actually took the time to learn it and learn the system, I mean, you can see it's a drastic difference in my business. We know exactly what's going on. We know the, booking rates. We know all this stuff that before we didn't really track it. It wasn't something we thought about, but now it's like every meeting we have, we're like, right, where was this number at? Where's this number at? We're able to pull it up right away. Makes a drastic difference. But I did notice something, Heather. The Service Titan came out with their top 10 yesterday, and I didn't see Sky Heating and Air on there.
We're trying. I know. I saw that yesterday, and I'm like, damn it. I want to see our name on there. We're sitting at a pretty high Titan score, but some of those guys that are getting 85s and closer to the 90s, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm proud of us, Victor, like you, and we may have talked about this when we were in San Diego last January when I met you. We went to Service Titan in March of 2017, and it was a disaster.
Oh yeah, I don't think you had told me that part.
Yeah, it was a disaster. We got 3 weeks into it, hit a brick wall, quickly retracted, went back to Desco, and hated Service Titan. And then Ara kept trying to get in touch with Travis. And so we decided last year we were going to try again. So we went live in April of 2019. And it was really the same thing that you said. We didn't take the time. We tried to make our process fit into their software, where really we needed to just change our workflow to work with the software, and we're getting the craziest amount of just very, very valuable data out of the software now. And Travis and I were just telling the CSRs who haven't been here very long and have never known anything other than Service Titan how things used to be and how compared to how they are now. And we can't imagine ever not having Service Titan. We could never.
Well, coming from me, I've been in business 2 years. Last week has been 2 years. I went through 4 CRMs in 2 years. So, well, technically 5, because I went to Service Titan, back to House Call, and back to Service Titan. And I remember the first time around with Service Titan, I put it on my GM. I said, "Here, handle this." And he wasn't capable of that. That's not what he did. He didn't understand how to work computers as well as someone I just didn't have the right person to implement everything, and I was putting it off to other people. And that was part of my downfall the first year or so in business, is that I was like, yeah, just you go do it. Well, no, I'm the owner. I have to buy into it. I got to take the time. I got to learn it. And once that happened and I accepted it and I said, okay, I'm going to dig in. We're going to get this thing figured out as a team. It's been drastic. Last time it was a complete nightmare. We were like, I think our Titan score was like at 4. Tom and his team came in. I think we were at like a 4 or 5 when they came in, and we're like, this thing's a piece of crap. He's like, yeah, you're using 4% of it. And I'm like, well, make it more, make me use it more. And we couldn't get it figured out. We canceled it. And this time around we hired Blue Collar Profits. So they came in and to get us implemented in the beginning. And then obviously we've been adding on ever since then. And I'm happy with it. And we've seen a drastic difference in, from our customer satisfaction thing with that, how they send everything out, the text messages, all that stuff. It's been big. So
there's so many things that it does. And if it's worth it for new Service Titan users, anybody who's listening, take the time and set it up properly. If you set it up properly, it'll save you so much time in the end.
Yeah. And hiring someone to do it or doing it yourself, it just takes time. It really, really does. And obviously implementing everything takes forever. I didn't have Ara reach out to me when I canceled. I'm other effort, everybody in that Service Titan. I was so mad when I left. I thought I was blaming everybody but myself the first time I left. Ara didn't reach out to me, so you still owe me an apology for that one. No, I'm just kidding.
No, actually, Travis was the same. Travis was furious. He would say nothing good about Service Titan after the first experience we had, to the point that, like, I think Ara was like, Travis, please stop.
Well, yeah, it's why, you know how much money it costs, right? Because we have a lot of employees, and it was
Right.
it's over $30,000 I had spent, and I'm getting nothing out of the thing. And I'm like, I was doing the same thing with what I think Service Fusion or whatever the heck I was using before that. I'm like, I'm getting the same results out of that. It's because I didn't know what I was doing. But that comes down to everything in the business. So, when we switched over, we switched back to Service Titan this time is when we started fresh as a business. March, obviously, coronavirus hit. I was laying off people. I kind of cleaned house, and I'm like, I had to start fresh, right? And when I started fresh, I said, what do I got to do to get this business where it needs to be? I know how to sell stuff. I know how to recruit people. I know how to, I know how to do a lot of things, but I didn't have the numbers in place and the processes in place. And that's because I didn't take the time to do it. So when I started fresh, I said, what do I need to do? And I said, I need to hire smart people. They don't need to know HVAC. I'm just going to hire smart people, and they're going to help. We're going to figure this shit out. Cause I know how to teach them HVAC, but I don't know how to do all the other stuff on the back end. And that's when I brought in Vivian, right? And Vivian, she came into interview as my assistant, and I find out she's got a master's degree and she studied under, a Nobel Prize winner and all this stuff. I'm like, oh, you're here for my assistant position? And I'm like, okay, you're hired. And obviously we brought her on, and then she was never my assistant. Now I'm kind of her assistant. She tells me what I need to do. But to have someone in there, to bring in someone that's smarter than you and better than you. And I always tell people to find out what you suck at and hire those people to fill those roles. And I feel like that. And that could have been sounds like what Travis did. Like Travis, yeah, I got this business, but he needed someone to fill where he drops off. And that's where, where the people that I brought in have done. What else I going to say? So now I talked to you recently, and you said that you and Travis are kind of doing this thing where you guys are kind of coaching other companies and stuff like that. What's going on? What's going on with that so far?
We started another company at the beginning of this year. We had several trade friends ask for help, ask what we were doing, how we had grown so fast. It's obviously not something that we have time to do, as a full-fledged business. Obviously, we're running Sky Heating. We have other real estate ventures that we're growing as well. But we just started coaching and kind of doing what I did for Travis when I first started here, coming in, assessing the business, figuring out where the weak spots are, addressing those, hitting them hard, and, working with individuals who wanted to, move forward like a powerhouse. And Travis and I tag team really well as far as coaching goes. He comes at things differently than I do, which is, I think, what makes us such a fantastic team. I've got this set of skills, and he's got a separate set of skills, and together, we've created quite an amazing, company and culture here at Sky Heating. And I think other people were seeing that. So they started reaching out through some of the podcasts he's done, some of the podcasts I've done, just asking if we'd help. You had reached out to me and asked, if I would coach Vivian a little bit. I love giving back to the trades. This industry is been my heart my whole career. And it's my passion. And I love helping. Vivian's fantastic. I loved working with her when you guys were going live with Service Titan. But we offer, consulting services on site, which was before the pandemic. We'll come on site for 3 days and really hit it hard, 12, 13-hour days, getting people's books in order, their KPIs in order, making sure they have a cohesive understanding of what it takes to measure the progress and growth of their business. And how to do that on a daily basis, not just, once a month when you're looking backwards at financials that are in the past.
Yeah. And once you get those things in place, and I feel like a lot of business owners are on a freaking hamster wheel all the time, right? And it's because they don't have processes. They don't put this stuff in place. So when you don't know where you stand at all times, your mind is always all over the place. So you meet a lot of guys, especially when they first start out, they're just trying to, by year 2, they're like, I'm ready to sell this thing. They don't know what's going on, right? They want out because they realize this is a headache. It's so many things going on and blah, blah, blah. And if they really knew where they stood and knew how to get to where they need to go, and once you get to the spot where, like, hey, a lot of these guys are running a net profit of like 7%. Like I'm talking to some of these guys, I'm like, how are you staying in business? And why are you staying in business? And once they start really diving down the numbers, they think, I sold this system for this much. my equipment costs this and the labor costs this. Well, where's the rest of the money come from for everything else, right? And once you start realizing that and you reverse engineer everything to where, hey, I want to make this much net profit. What do I have to do to charge to get to that? And once that's one of the things that we started breaking everything down and working backwards as a business. And once we got to that point where we're like, hey, this is where we want to be at all the time. And if the job's not here, we're not taking the job. A lot of guys just take everything. Is that kind of how you guys are? You guys are pretty selective on the jobs you take?
We are, and we don't hesitate to fire the wrong customer. Not every customer is our customer. We don't want to do these quick repairs. We're not going to undercharge. We provide a premium service. We've worked very hard to become more efficient. I can say I'm very proud of our team. We have 4 less employees than we did in 2015, and we're doing double the revenue.
That's awesome.
With less people than we had 5 years ago. So, just putting those processes and procedures in place is important. And you hit the nail right on the head when you said reverse engineer your financials. Once you break it down, you kind of build back up to where you want to be. And we share that with our entire staff. We train 5 days a week. Not every person receives training every single day, but each department gets training. We bring all the financials up. We explain how it works. We explain why we charge what we charge. And we do the one chuck in a truck exercise with our entire team. So they see where those costs are that they don't think about. It's the same cost that we explain to our customer when they're like, why are you charging $360 an hour? Why are you charging $420 an hour? Why is it so expensive to replace a capacitor? The guy was here for 15 minutes. Well, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in training to make sure that they are up on the latest and greatest. We have an in-house training room with live equipment and virtual reality. We want to make sure that we provide the best customer service possible, but that comes at a cost. And so once you can break that down and the employees are on board with it, then everybody has an understanding of it and stops wasting time on the clock.
I feel like a lot of guys are scared to share their financials with their business. So like, I'm like an open book, right? I don't really sugarcoat much, and I explain everything. And the same conversation we have with our guys. And when you get that whole culture where everybody, they believe you're the best, you're the premium service. You get like, that's how my guys walk. My techs are like that. My sales guys, my installers, everybody has this like puffed out chest because that's what I bring every day. You have to instill that in your whole business and make them understand that you're not going to be that guy. I will never be that cheap guy. And let me explain to you X, Y, and Z, why we want to be like that. Yeah, exactly what you're saying. Once you get the whole business to buy in, you'll see drastic growth. Because my guys, they get mad when someone tries to show them an $8,000 bid and we're at 60. They're like, are you kidding me? Like that, did that guy come in here looking like this? Is his truck wrapped? Did he have uniforms on? Did he have an iPad? Did he do a presentation? Does he have a full-time warranty text? Does he have like, come on, like, do you really think I could do it for that price? And then the customer, you have to, but a lot of guys that get scared when someone's like, this guy's at $8,000, they're like, oh, I'll do it for $8,000. No, we don't operate like that. And sir, my goal is to be in business in 5 years. I want to be able to take care of you next time you need an air conditioner in 15 years, but I will not be able to if I do it at that price. And this is why.
Exactly. Yes. And we don't take those jobs either. We don't ever discount our price. Our price is our price. We'll build the value. We provide 6 options, just like Uncle Joe says, you give the 6 options, and the customer's either a perfect fit for us or they're not, and that's okay. And we have seen the exponential growth because we've got 100% buy-in. The culture now at Sky Heating is not what it was 5 years ago. It's so far better. We have buy-in from everyone. We provide opportunities to every single employee. So the opportunities to make spiffs and to make extra commission and to grow with the company. Obviously, we're growing at a rapid rate. We hire from within. Those employees that want to shine and really want to be, an integral growing part of the team, they rise to the top very quickly. And I love that about our company, where we have the ability to give those opportunities to the people that come to work and work hard for us every day.
Yeah. And a lot of people, that's why people want to go work at a business, right? When you walk into a business and you feel like, okay, I'm going to come in and this is going to be my job and I'm stuck there. No one really wants to be a part of that. And this is actually a conversation I have with my guys. And I say, hey, look, you see where we were last year. So this is 2 years in. Year 1, you saw where we're at. Year 2. Guess what happens? We're going to keep growing like this. And guess who's going to move up? Is it going to be the new guy or is it going to be you? So as long as we keep pushing, keep doing what we do, you're going to have a better position. Like I've had, apprentices that are now lead installers making, way more money than they've ever made. I got, guys that were installers or managers. I got techs that are managers. Everybody in the business has moved up and made more money. And when people come into a culture like that, it just makes you want to come to work every day, right? Everybody wants to be here. Everybody wants to grow. They get excited. I never thought I would grow this fast in 2 years, but it's been, everyone's like, what the hell? Like, this isn't the same business. Like the guys that have been with me since the beginning, like this isn't even the same anything. Right. And even from 6 months ago, when the coronavirus stuff hit, I had, obviously my whole business was all over the place. So all of a sudden we started fresh. I said, hey, this is how we're going to do business. I have to change my mindset. I'm going to take control of this and I'm going to do it the right way. And once I started taking my mind there and getting where I needed to be, I became just more, instead of being authoritarian, I became their friend and the mentor, and we all are trying to grow together. And I had to step back. For me, I'm very, I know everything. That's how I was. And I'm not like that anymore. Like all of us are together trying to figure out how we can get to the next level. And I think, what you guys have going at Sky is phenomenal. I see it from the outside, and I saw it from the outside before I'm at now. Right. So last year I started getting into the Facebook groups, like probably April, May, July last year, whatever, June, July last year. And when I jumped in the groups, Sky was the one that stood out. I always saw Travis posting and I'm like, what are they doing over there? And I want to be like that. And I saw your truck wraps. I'm like, I got to get a truck wrap. I got to go private label. I saw the little picture where he has like the Photoshop Sky logos on the Goodman equipment. I'm like, now I got to go to the factory and I got to do this. So, obviously, people watch me from afar, but there's a lot of people that watch you guys from afar and they want to emulate what you guys do. And that's kind of why I wanted to bring you on here. So that people don't understand, like everyone just thinks like they're just doing the same thing as me. No, they put these processes in place. They do everything the right way. And when you do that over time, you're going to grow, very quickly.
The biggest thing is the consistency of it. People can put in a bunch of effort, I worked really hard this month. It's not I worked really hard this month kind of thing. It's a consistent, I work really hard every day. My mind is in it every day. We train our employees that way. We have a gal that we brought in. She started in February of this year as a CSR. Obviously coronavirus hit in March. We laid off 75% of our staff, which was devastating. Both emotionally and fiscally, but she had the highest call booking percentage. She consistently had the highest call booking percentage, and she was new, so we had to keep somebody to answer the phone while after the governor shut the state down, and we just had a skeleton crew working pretty much the entire month of March. And she was the one that we called back, and she took on that responsibility of booking those calls. She kept our call center going in the midst of this pandemic when it first started and nobody knew what to do. And she's now a supervisor that quickly as we're fantastic. And she's leading our call center.
That's freaking awesome. I was answering my phone during that time, so that was a little weird. I
said, we're like, oh my gosh, Sunday night came. We're like, we don't have anybody to answer the phone, and it's been years since he and I've answered the phone.
Oh, it was weird.
I was like, well, I think we need to call somebody back, and it was an easy choice. We called back. She's fantastic. She's just grown exponentially with the company the last 6 months. Like you, we had our best month ever in July, and before that, the best month ever was June. We hit it hard. Once people started buying again, we hit it really hard, and we're constantly watching our pacing report to make sure we're going to hit our goals.
Yeah. And so the big thing with goals, like, when I said we set out our daily sales tracker, we have all our stuff, and I always have our goals and what our goal is, how much we have left, how much we got to hit per day. I have that stuff in front of my guys all the time. Obviously we stack rank everybody. So I think that's a huge thing coming from a sales background. When I was stack ranked, where I wanted to be, and it definitely wasn't on the bottom. Okay. And if you don't have guys in that, you also quickly find out if you have the right guys in the business, if they start complaining about the stack rankings and that guy's getting the best calls. You could tell, like, you don't belong here, man. Like, you should be fighting. Who cares what they're doing? You just do what you're doing. And it's been one of the things, like, tracking the numbers like that has been allowed me to kind of weed out the guys that didn't belong, where before I didn't really know, I know they're a nice guy and they're doing their stuff. But when you start getting a competitive atmosphere and people like that, and you feel like, okay, that guy's just not going to make it. And the numbers are where you find that out. Before it was like, I think he's doing good. I don't know. Customers like him, but they like him because he hasn't brought us any freaking money.
Well, our sales team is really strong. I'm really proud of them. They actually motivate each other. If one of them has a light day, they ride together so that they can learn off of each other. And we work in pods, so our service techs are paired up with a system designer, and the service techs get competitive too. And they know if we get close, they get really competitive near the end of the month. I mean, July, I was sitting the last day of July with my service manager. We were watching the numbers, waiting for them to complete their calls because we were so close to hitting another goal. And Travis wasn't here, but there was squeals out of the back office when we had that final close, and we were like, yes, we won, we did it. We made that goal that the guys were just like, I don't know if we're gonna make it. And we're like, nope, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
I've been the guy with all that weight on my shoulder. They're like, hey, this is the last call of the month, bro. You got to get us $8,000 on this call or whatever it is. I remember that feeling. And so keep in mind, a lot of guys that are listening to this and have businesses never came from that background. They came from working at a small business, and they started, a little mom and pop shop, and they started their own. So I got blessed because I got to come from a culture where it was like, all we talked about is sales. That's all we worried about. Where are our numbers at? Like, we were freaking dogs in that room. And that place is, I don't know any other place in the country that's got better sales guys than that room. And I had to fight and claw to get into that room. And once I got in there, I had to make sure they knew I was there. And I still remember that culture, and everybody was like, it was dog eat dog, man. We all wanted to beat each other. We all wanted to one up each other. I mean, we were talking shit in the group chat. Like, that's just how we were. And then I come here now, and I have some great sales guys, but they're like my silent killers, I call them. Like, they don't have that. Like, I'm like, what? You're not going to tell him you're going to kick his ass? Like, that's how I am. They're like, oh, good job, bro. And I'm like, what the hell? What's going on here? I don't know. That's just, I always like, for me, I always like to put someone ahead of me. So I have like, okay, I got to go get that guy, and that guy's my enemy until I beat him. And then whatever, that I find out something else to chase. But that's just my mindset. I always want something to chase all day. These guys are like, they generally love like, oh, good job, bro. Great job yesterday, man. I wish I would have sold. And I'm like, oh, dude, I'm like, no, I'm gonna come kick your ass today. I'm sorry I lost yesterday. But anyway, so yeah, I think once people get in the mindset of figuring out their numbers, right? Number one thing is figure out your numbers in your business. If you don't have your numbers right, you might as well just shut everything down today and take 2 days, 3 days, take a week to figure out what the hell your goals are, right? I don't know. I feel like if you keep going without stopping and just resetting yourself, you're never going to get where you need to be. Like for us, we happen to be a slower time of the year where we're able to reset and figure it out. So maybe in the off season, like figure out where your business is first off, and then figure out where you guys want to go, and then set the goals and figure out what your culture is going to be about. I think group huddles for your office staff, for your business, are massive. We do daily meetings. We do a 10-minute meeting every day. And then we do our big meeting once a week. And once you get in the room, everybody sets their goals, and then everybody goes out to their departments and then decides, hey, look, at this where we need to be. And then everybody fills that little void in that department. And once you get to that level, I think that the growth is there's no limit to it at that point. You can grow as big as you want, as obviously as how much marketing you want to do, things like that. But you have to have that stuff in place before you try to go forward. Everyone's like, I want to get to this number, but I have nothing. I don't have X, Y, and Z set up. So I'm like, you're never going to get there no matter what. You could say whatever fucking number you want. It's never going to happen.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. And we do the same thing. We do the daily huddle. That's awesome because it's like that one opportunity in the morning to get your team really pumped up. But without proper financials, and a lot of companies don't realize that, they think that the financials are an afterthought. They'll get closed out at the end of the month, this, that, and the other thing. That's where it all starts. Like you said, without things being properly accounted for, you don't know if your gross profit margin is accurate or not. I mean, I talked to an HVAC owner this week who was asking for some help with some Service Titan workarounds. And he was telling me that all of his consumer financing fees are below the line. And I'm like, that's throwing your numbers off. You gotta get that back up in cost of goods sold. And he's like, oh, I know, but well, it's really important.
Yeah. It's not like a tomorrow thing. Like, that has to be done.
That's how you price yourself. You price yourself based on what gross profit margin you want to be at and what's your break even. What's it going to take to get there?
Yeah. And I actually, I'm in the process right now of acquiring businesses and stuff. And I'm starting to see like the good, bad, and the ugly about these businesses. And a lot of these owners have no fucking idea what's going on. I had a guy in my business today, and he's asking me for X, Y, and Z. This is how much I want to make. I'm like, dude, you're your net profit for the year is negative $2,000. Last year you made $50,000. Like what would you like me to pay you for that? Because I feel like I can go do marketing in your territory and take over and do better than that. And he thought he's doing well, right? I'm making a little bit of money, but when you really look at the books, I'm like, dude, you might as well not even be in business. Like what are we having this conversation for? Right. I mean, so.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the businesses that Travis and I have purchased, and the real estate that Travis and I have purchased, we always ask for financials. And I have yet to get a set of financials that looks reasonably accurate.
I can't say mine are probably as good as yours. Like I said, obviously we're still learning, man. My business is 2 years old, and a lot of my people that came in, they came from outside the industry. So we're working around. That's why we're working with you to try to figure out what we should pay attention to. I know that we always, obviously our profit and loss statement, we have all that stuff down, but like all the little details, what we should be looking for are the things that I don't know, because I didn't come from a business side. I came from selling and as a technician. So I have to learn just the stuff that's important that I need to be watching for. And like we had that conversation on the phone the other day about, maintenance agreements and how, we can't count for the money today. We have to set it aside, stuff like that. Can you talk about that a little bit? The maintenance agreements? I think a lot of people are confused and they count it as money made today when it's really future money, right?
Correct. It's deferred revenue. Maintenance agreements and memberships is probably the hardest little finite detailed piece of service Titan, because it can be set up so many different ways. For our monthly memberships, that's almost like a gym membership. We recognize that revenue immediately. The customer gets billed every month. They get a membership to have a maintenance on their furnace and their air conditioner or their heat pump and air handler once a year. That's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. The deferred is where it gets difficult. And what I recommend is setting up a separate bank account so that you can transfer the deferred revenue funds into a separate bank account. So when you're looking at your operating account, you're not overstated, so to speak. So with the deferred revenue, it's, let's say, Victor, I'm going to sell you a prepaid maintenance and I'm not going to do it until next August. And I'm going to charge you, say, $200 for that prepaid maintenance. Yeah. Well, I haven't yet earned that revenue. I owe you a service as a business. And so that revenue isn't actually money that you've earned yet. So it actually goes into a liability account called deferred revenue, which basically means you've collected $200 for it. So you have $200 extra in cash, but you've not yet earned that money. So it has to be sitting in a liability account, because let's say, Victor, you just decide, nah, I really don't want that. Can I get a refund on that prepaid membership? I have to pay that back to you. I haven't technically earned that money. So when I do come out, if you don't cancel your membership, I come out a year later. And at that time where I actually provide the service that is generating, the income and the revenue, then that money gets moved over from deferred revenue into earned revenue.
Nice. And a lot of guys, that's all they do is the prepaid memberships. And I try to, like, my guys don't get any credit if it's prepaid. If you sell it 1 or 2 year, that doesn't count towards your numbers. It's actually as if you never happened. I'll allow them to do it if the customer, that's all they want to do. But that's like one off now. We're so in tune to only selling the monthly memberships. And I think a lot of people are I don't understand the logic of it. A lot of people are so scared to do the monthly memberships. Like, oh, I just need the money now, and maybe that's because they're smaller businesses and that money really, they're spending that money right now or they really need it. But for me, everything I do is try to do monthly.
We do as well. We used to offer the prepaid memberships, and it can be an absolute nightmare to manage. And even for someone with my expertise, it's a headache. I'm not going to lie. I would absolutely recommend going to just monthlies. That's what we do. We don't even sell the prepaids anymore. If the customer wants that, we don't offer it. There's no benefit from it. The monthlies have worked out better for us because we're basically letting the customer know, with this 15, 27.50, whichever plan that they fall into, with this monthly membership, you get 10% off of any repairs. You get your maintenances that are due to keep your warranty in place. We don't give 10% off of a diagnostic fee, and we don't give 10% off of a maintenance, like the price if they purchased another maintenance. But off of any repairs, we'll give 10% off. And it's an incentive to get that customer to become a member, to start generating that recurring revenue. And it's also easier on the accounting side because you're not dealing with the deferred revenue, which can get out of control really quickly, especially if you don't have a very savvy accounting person in place who understands how that works.
Yeah. One of the first things, obviously most people that are coming to acquire a business, the first thing they ask is how many memberships you have, monthly recurring memberships. Nah, they don't ask you how many club members, like prepaid ones. How many monthly recurring revenue, how much monthly recurring revenue do you have? And a lot of guys, they underestimate it. They only think about now, right? But what if you 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you want to sell that business? Don't you want to make it worth as much as possible? Like, isn't that the point of being in business, is to make as much money as possible? And when you do have to get out, is to sell it for as much as possible.
Right.
So sometimes you got to sacrifice today to make money tomorrow. And I know that some guys are just chasing their tail and they need the money really bad. But if you really look at it, a long-term investment, like every business should be looked at as a long-term investment. It's not the short term. You put your work in, you do your time, and eventually whenever you decide you're done, you get paid for all that time you put in. And a lot of guys just fail to think about that. They only think about the now. And then that's part of the podcast. I think a lot of times I've talked about it from a couple of my other people I had on. Just put the money in the bank. Think about it. Think about the future. Start planning ahead and know your end game or whatever it is. Because some guys don't want to be doing this for a long time. I know a lot of young guys nowadays, they want to get in, make their money and get out. And that's just kind of the mindset and the culture and how it's changed. Back in the day, it was like, hey, we build this business for 20, 30 years and then we sell it or whatever. Now it's like you talk to these guys and they're like, oh, private equity is going to buy me in 2 years and all this stuff. And all they think about is a dollar sign and try to get the hell out right away.
Yeah, that is very true. Not true for Sky Heating. Travis and I are both, like you said, you work all the time. Travis and I both work all the time, which is kind of funny because my husband wanted me to come work for Travis so that I wouldn't work all the time. And now I work all the time. But we have too much fun with it. I love the people that we've met in the last couple of years, how we've been able to grow our network of people in the industry and gain friendships and knowledge from what's working for other people. I mean, it's just been fantastic. We have no intention of retiring anytime soon.
And I'm the same way. And I talk to people all the time that think I'm selling, and I'm like, no. I enjoy it. Now it's more fun now that I know what the hell's going on. Right. I have so much more freedom, and I have a staff in place that if I'm not here, like I was off for the last 2 weeks with my newborn, and I didn't have to worry about it. My business ran fine without me. But I enjoy being here. Every other day I was sneaking into the office, trying to figure out what's going on. You know what I mean? They're like, get the hell out of here. I'm like, I don't know how. This is my home. This is my second home, my second family. And obviously I've stepped more into my role with service hero marketing. And a lot of my focus is there, and we're trying to grow that. And even like Garrett is stepping away from his HVAC business. He just started stepping away about a week ago and started focusing 100% on marketing, and his brother's running it for him. And, I spend a lot of my time on that because there's, with that, I'm able to help a lot of people. And that's one of my passions has always been to help people. And ever since I've been in this industry, everybody below me, I've trained them. And that's why a lot of people want to come work for me, because I'm willing to put the time in and invest in them. And one of the guys that, he owns a pretty big business, and he told me, he's like, if you're just doing this for the short term, don't do this, because these people want a career. They want to be here for a long time. They want to mentor, and everything that I do, I invest so much back into my guys and training and buying them tools and whatever they need. I had one of my employees the other day, his dad had a heart attack and he had to take off that day. And, he's like, he could barely afford the plane ticket. You buy that guy the plane ticket, invest in your people, and take your time and build that relationship. And those people are going to pay you back so much in the future. I don't know how many countless people I've helped in my business, and I don't really talk to anybody about it. It just is what it is. And when you have the passion like you and Travis have, and you take care of the people, it's crazy what can happen for you.
You're 100% correct on that. And we love it too. We love our employees. It was very hard when we had to lay everybody off. They were all very happy to come back. We brought them back a month later, and we've just been rocking and rolling ever since. They know how much we care about them. They know how much we would do for them. I mean, they're the biggest assets we have as a company.
Oh, 100%. And when I laid the people off for me, and I didn't get to hire all my people back because I had the sharks swimming in the waters, the big money guys here in SoCal. Like there's so many companies, they were circling me like I was a dead animal in the ocean, man. All the sharks were circling. They were trying to pick off my guys. And I was able to keep the guys, a lot of the guys trusted me. I was like, just trust me. Once this thing's over, we're going to keep pushing forward. We're going to keep pushing forward. I'm like, I'm a new business. It's not easy for me to take a hit like this. Since I invest so much money back into it, I was spending so much money on, making sure they're making their payroll, because I was trying to keep that whole team so I can get into summer this year and take off. And a lot of guys, they saw me. I mean, I was in tears, you know, and it was really sad seeing some of the people go that have been with me for a long time and knowing that I wasn't going to be able to get them back. And that really sucked. But there's the guys that have stuck with me, like the guys that stuck beside me now, like, you know, I have a couple of them, you know, they moved into better positions. They've done things. And I said, you know what, you guys trusted me during that time and you trusted me with your family's livelihood and you pay that stuff back. And it really sucks, but it's like I said, at the end of the day, I got to kind of figure out who really is on my side, who wants to be on my team. And even, yeah, it sucked. I get a little emotional talking about it. Cause it's like, I don't like to lose much and I don't like to talk about losing. And it was a reality. I got my own piece of humble pie when all that stuff happened.
Yeah, I think that was really tough for everyone. I know I shed a lot of tears the month of March. I know the team that we were able to keep, the little skeleton crew, we became really close, and it still chokes me out too to talk about it and the losses that we suffered during that time. But, you know, we're coming back as best we can. We're still in a pandemic.
Yeah, we're still here. And I think we're not all the way through it. I think that the summer's held us up, you know, it's been a crutch. But I think a lot of guys, they need to really, really start planning. And this is going to be the most pivotal off season in almost everybody's business, right? How we attack this off season, how we go about it, you know, how we do our marketing, it's going to have to be different. You know, how we go about preparing to go to calls or the masks and the gloves. And there's going to be a lot more stuff because I think this thing's going to come back full force. And then what, you know, we don't have that heat demand. And, you know, people are willing to put more clothes on, but they can only take so many clothes off, right? So once wintertime gets here, they'll bundle up rather than be scared to have someone come in their house that might have a virus. So you have to really think about that and make sure you got your money and your financials in place where you don't have to lay anybody off. And I suggest going right now, whatever you got to do, make sure you got the cash flow to get through this weird ass off season we're about to have. I suggest you do it now.
I completely agree. Yeah. Companies really need to be making sure that they're set up to handle what comes next. And we don't know what comes next. It's crazy. Maybe the whole United States is going to freeze over.
That could happen. That would suck. I got some
murder hornets, or, you know,
it could be anything. Well, anyways, Heather, it's been great having you on. And like I said, I want to spotlight this month on a bunch of powerful women in our industry. And Heather, to me, you're like a shining star. And it's fantastic to talk to you and interact with you. You and Travis have both been great. And thanks so much for coming on my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Victor, and have Vivian get in touch with me if you guys need any more assistance.
We got to get you out here soon. I'm back from the baby leave. I was telling Travis I got to get you out. So hopefully you guys can get out. I got my new facility opening up next week. So maybe when it gets all said and done, maybe I can get you guys out and kind of come out and give us a little bit of coaching. I'd love to learn a little bit more. Oh,
I would love to learn from you too. That would be awesome. Maybe September.
Hey, I'm in.
Thanks for tuning into the Hero Podcast.